What is the hardest you've ever been shot down by someone you were interested in? At school, my crush shouted in my face, "I told you before I'm not interested, so stop asking." She'd got me mixed up with someone else. I'd never spoken to her. She didn't know I existed. She was a new server in a restaurant where I was a cook. We hit it off hard, lots of chemistry, always had a good time chatting during work hours. I floated along on this for 2 weeks, and then one night as we were closing the store I asked if we could get together sometime. She said no in such an immediate and apprehensive way that I was a little bit shocked. I asked why not. She said, "I really just don't like you very much." I asked, "Haven't we been flirting it up for 2 weeks?" She said yes. I asked, "What's the deal with all that?" and I'll never forget the answer. "You just seemed like you really needed to meet someone and I felt sorry for you." She wasn't wrong. But one of my friends. I told him I liked him and he said, "Happens to the best of us." "Hey, I was wondering if you wanted to get a drink this week." "Sorry, I already have plans with your brother." A friend thought it would be funny to let slip to the girl I liked that I liked her. Her response: no. 7th grade, I asked a girl to the Halloween dance. She said she couldn't go because she had to put a cake in the oven. One time I was making out with this girl in her apartment and I said we should go on a date. We'd make a good couple. She laughed and said I'm not relationship material, then continued making out with me. Got laughed at to my face. Not an exaggerated laugh. It was a true from the heart actual crack up. In high school, a bunch of cheerleaders sat at the same table as part of my friend group. I had classes and mutual friends with a lot of them, so it wasn't out of the ordinary to talk to them. One girl was also in my physics class and I was like, wow, this girl has it going on. She was tall, blonde, stereotypically cheerleader hot, popular and also smart. We would talk inside and outside of class and often were in the same study groups. I took a liking to her. My friends convinced me to make a move. One day at lunch, I told her I liked her and asked if we could go out. It seemed to be going well. She didn't say no or give a negative reaction. 16-year-old me couldn't believe I was pulling this off. Just like my friends told me I would. I don't remember if she asked or I offered, but I had my number written on a piece of napkin and gave it to her. She accepted it and then had to leave early for cheer. As she was walking out of the lunchroom, she stopped at the ends of the tables, looked back and made sure I was looking. Then, she crumpled up the napkin with my phone number and threw it with conviction into the trash, and turned around and walked out. Hey, do you? No mixed signals. Just straight up rejection. One of the more decent rejections I've dealt with, to be honest. Not me, but a few weeks ago my coworker walked into a bar, sat down and ordered a drink. A girl walked in and stood next to him waiting for the bartender. He looks over at her and said, "Hi." She looked at him and said, "Sorry, I don't talk to guys with tits," and walked away. I dated a girl for about 2 weeks in high school and she actually made a literal pro and cons list of me versus this other guy she worked with, and showed it to me when she broke up with me for him. The only pro on his list was his hot and the only con on mine was his short. That stuck with me for more than a decade. 10 years ago, I really like you. Him, I'm sorry. You'll get over it. I never got over it. And now we're married. Asked a girl out and she said she was a lesbian. 2 weeks later I saw her making out with a dude at a party. Maybe he was a lesbian too. She told me not only no but to give up entirely. Like, on dating in general. Yeah. Asked out crush in 7th grade. He said yes. Less than 24 hours later, he breaks up with me at my locker, his group of friends laughing a few feet away. I ask him why. He says they dared me to say yes. Why would I actually date you? Joke's on him because he messaged me on Facebook during my 3rd year of undergrad to ask me out. I obviously said no. She lit my number on fire and threw the ashes back at me. A buddy convinced me to ask our waitress out. I did, not realizing that she had been one of my older sister's roommates before she went to grad school. "Aren't you John Smith? Your sister told us so much about you." Hung my head in shame. Still gave an awesome tip. I went up to a rooftop patio and saw a cute girl. I walked up to her and said, "Nice view up here." She looked me up and down and said, "There's not much to look at up here." Another time innocently just introduced myself to a girl at a bar. "Hi, I'm Rich. My name is Richard." To which she replied, "Not rich enough." Welp, time for another drink. 60-year-old guy here, met online. First meet for coffee date. After 20 minutes, she said, "Well, I've heard enough here," and walked out. Ouch. I crushed hard on this guy in high school. I invited him to my 16th birthday party and I thought we were vibing pretty hard. Fast forward a few days to Monday in school. He's kind of avoiding me and I pass him in the hallway nearing the end of the day and I say hey, all too eagerly. He starts shouting, "Do you have a crush on me?" Timid me. What? No. What? Rude boy. Yeah, well, Susie said you liked me and honestly that's so weird and gross and I would never ever like you like that. Leave me alone, you creepy freak. And some other choice words that I think I blacked out from my memory. He shouted this at me in the middle of the hallway. My newly 16-year-old self. In between classes where everyone was. I had to pretend like it wasn't a big deal, but I headed to biology and proceeded to cry like a baby. Not even just that. Fast forward to December where we have a winter formal dance. I had a falling out with a friend and I find out this friend and rude boy are going to the winter formal together. No big deal, whatever. Then I find out they're going together on purpose to hurt my feelings. I cried a bunch more and still went to that dance and had a blast, so f you guys. Wow, high school sucked. Am I right? In elementary school I had a crush on a guy in the grade above me. He used to stay at my neighbor's house till his parents got him after work some days. Somehow, I was locked out of my house. I don't know where my parents were, lol. Anyway, my friend who lived on the block told him I had a crush on him and I didn't deny it. He started throwing rocks at me, and I was trying to hide. Couldn't get in my house. Yeah, it was terrible. Not sure how long the rock attack went on for, but looking back seems like forever. I never even thought about you that way, lol. My wife told me she didn't date coworkers. Obviously. I quit. Checkmate. Lots of flirting between a gal and I in one of my college courses. Went on for months. Finally work up the courage to ask her out and she replied with, "Not even if you were the last man on earth." Damn. She called me her super duper mega best friend. I think that summarizes it perfectly. "What's your name again?" was my personal unfave. On an opposite note, I had horrible self-esteem as a middle schooler, but apparently I wasn't that bad looking. I had just convinced my mom that I needed to get rid of the unibrow, gotten contacts to replace my Coke bottle glasses, and discovered makeup and shopping in the juniors section instead of the misses section. Never again will waxing my face be so rewarding as ridding a 12-year-old of a unibrow. I had a classmate come up to me with his friend and ask me out to the dance. Not recognizing the guy, very large class at a public school. I immediately panicked, thinking this must be a joke. There's no way anyone finds me attractive. I laughed it off and said, "Ha ha ha, no. You're joking," and rushed away. I wasn't bullied at school. I had no reason to think that. I didn't see his face, but I can imagine it wasn't good. I think about that kid once in a while. 20 years later. Beginning of the end of my marriage, I was trying to address her lack of affection for and attraction to me, and I said something along the lines of, "We should be burning for each other." She shrugged and said, "We don't always get what we want." Casually dating a girl and thought we were pretty much a couple. One day we were hanging out at her workplace and her colleague walked by, sees me and asks, "Oh, is this your boyfriend?" And I said yes at the exact time she said no. Awkward AF. That was 14 years ago or so. Apparently she was afraid I'd say no because we hadn't referred to ourselves that way before. She asked me to be her boyfriend that night. We've been happily married now for almost 4 years. I was in 7th grade and had a huge crush on this 8th grader named Brittany. We both rode the bus to school, and I was the last person to get picked up in the morning, also last to get dropped off. We both would talk on the bus in the afternoons, and one day I decided to tell her how much I liked her, and asked if she would be my girlfriend. She said she would think about it. The next day I got on the bus to literally every kid on that thing chanting she said no, over and over again. Rough ride to school lol. Asked a girl out on a camping trip and she said she knew me for too long, 2 or 3 years at this point, and that she was worried a relationship would ruin our friendship if things didn't work out. That night she was making out with a guy she said she'd been friends with since 3rd grade. When I was in middle school I was not popular. I had a crush on a girl and finally worked up the courage to ask her out. Being a socially inept little autist, I just walked up to her and asked her in the middle of a group of her friends, half our class. She got super embarrassed and said no. On the plus side, I was less unpopular after that, with a bunch of people telling me they couldn't believe I did that. Early grade school, she told me to meet her on the playground and she would tell me the answer. Yeah, you can see where this is going. Show up to see her and the rest of the class there laughing about how I actually was serious and there was no way, etc.